All right, thank you for, if you're with us, for bearing with us there. Live stream does have its hiccups, but I am Kurt Wettermann of Wettermann Homes.
I am Richard Wettermann of said Wettermann Homes.
Yes, and we are a Central Florida custom, semi-custom, and production style builder. So obviously we can build pretty much whatever you want. We just had a question come through on an agent asking if we're a custom builder being represented by EXP. Thank you for that. We are actually state licensed contractors. We also have our real estate license as well, brokered by EXP. We're with the core group. We just have that as a conduit for the discussions we're having today. We wanted to touch on pre-construction listings, but first, when we wanted to go through and let you know what we offer, that's the breadth of what we offer. Again, we do have stock plans that you can choose from that we're happy to make changes to. So that's where the semi-custom comes in, and then we do have several clients that actually had ideas. The amount that they wanted to change was so much that it's really more advantageous if they just start from scratch, and we have a wonderful designer in Central Florida, probably one of the best values in Central Florida, that we can set you up with an appointment with to work with them to answer that question on what we do. And we have Maddie here organizing all of our production.
Maddie on the ones and twos.
Yep. So we're going to share her contact information if you ever want to do live streams, podcasting, content, anything like that. She's who we use, and we're happy to share that. So you can reach out to her as well if you want to organize something like this. And so that's who we are. Who we are is, whenever you want to know who we are, what we do, and what makes us different, we're always going to share all of our past clients' information, and you can reach out to them. And in some cases, since we don't have a model home, our relationship is such with our previous clients that they allow us to take prospective clients through their home. We ask that you be a little bit more serious on that, lovingly, just because we are going through somebody's personal residence. We absolutely love them, and they're happy to open their homes to you and us anytime. And so, because we're mostly reaching out to agents, we also like to say when you refer clients to us, we do pay full commission at the completion of the slab, not at the certificate of occupancy, so we can get you compensated.
Yep.
We have to be careful in the terminology.
Ding, ding, ding. And to, paying commission at the slab. Well, when does that happen? Schedules can vary, but typically from the time that permits are approved by whatever county or municipality you're building in, that can be anywhere from permitting, from the approval of the permit. That would be, a month or two to pour the slab.
I would say 2 months, but it's not going to be more than 3 months unless there's an issue, and you would know that up front. But it's definitely not the 6 to 8 months or the year after the fact that we like to set for the expectation there. So to answer that question, that's one of the main questions we got. Well, how long does this take? And then so specifically, if we were to sign a contract today, the financing and the permitting process is usually done in conjunction because we can kind of get a jump on the permitting. So we ask about 30 days at best, up to 90 days for the permitting and or financing portion, and then about 6 to 8 months of construction time. So we like to set the expectation of, if you were to sign a contract today, that is 1 year from the day we sign the contract to the day you start moving stuff into the house. So that way, that will give you enough time to plan for your life and then probably foresee any circumstances coming up in the meantime.
Yeah, and previously Kurt had mentioned about, what kind of builder are we, custom, semi-custom, production. Those have varying degrees of difference, and what it mainly comes down to is timeline. So that in conjunction with, in regard to realtors, when am I going to get paid? Well, that kind of depends too on what type of plan they're going to pick. If they're going to pick one of what we would call one of our production plans, something that we've already built, that a previous plan has already been approved by Orange County, that we know if a customer comes to us or you come to us and say, hey, they really love, the Villa Verano 3 on our website. We've already had that approved by Orange County. For the most part, we could submit right away and we could go to permitting, just as an example. So you would get your money quicker based on that. If they're doing a custom plan, which we have become more amenable to During COVID, it was a bit more difficult because of supply issues. So, I mean, you were looking at 6 months to a year sometimes, to get those issues ironed out. So a custom plan, could take, a bit longer. We do offer to do that. We are flexible. But again, though, those plans and those types of builds are really come down to a timeline, budget and timeline. That's as basic as we can make it. So just keep that in mind, for your clients, for realtors, to let them know it's a time thing. Yeah, we can do custom, but it depends on what your timeline is.
It creates a lot more unforeseen variables. I think that's pretty straightforward, but really that's what it comes down to. And so the topic of this really was outreach to our fellow agents and the prospect of pre-construction listings. So we've done that on our own, but we also work with agents who have lots or who want to create more pre-construction listings, more opportunities for sales and things like that. And so we can work with you to do pre-construction listings, which means we can help you do evaluations on the lot, whether it's, do we need any wetlands assessment, how much is that going to cost, the clearing, grading, and fill. That is the highest and most variable expense in construction. That can vary from lot. It could be $15,000 on one lot and $150,000 on another lot. And so us being able to walk you through that and to be able to put together a pre-construction listing, including all of the costs so the client is ready to go, will hopefully bring more opportunities to you, and you can see other lots out there that might be available. Or if you're currently listing a lot, we can work with you to create a pre-construction listing just as builders, and so you would manage that listing. And so the importance of this is, I'm going to segue into a couple of examples. We're working with a client now, actually several clients, that we're looking at lots and evaluating it. And so once we get out there, we have one current client that was looking at a lot, a little overpriced, but there is part of the lot's in a flood zone, and they had an elevation where there was a big dip in the lot. And until I went out there and saw it, I realized, well, this just isn't swamp. This almost looks like a pond. And so that's going to take a lot more fill, because there are circumstances there where the excavator is going to have to go in and dig all that out. Now they're going to have to pump out water. Now they're potentially muck. So whether you think you're going to have to fill it in a couple of feet, now you're going to have to dig down a couple of feet. And when you evaluate the price of the lot and then the potential excavation, you have a lot that might be $150,000 and now it's another $100,000. Now you're at a $250,000 lot, and ultimately the expertise that we bring to our clients and you as realtors is, number one, pricing it appropriately, but for potential clients, it's saying, well, you're at a $250,000 lot. What else can we find that's more readily available for $250,000? Because that's where we're at. And so those are the kind of current evaluations that we're doing for clients now. And let me segue into another potential client. Just got an email with a client who was looking, we're working with an agent and a client, and they were looking at one of our pre-construction listings. And this client is in a circumstance where they're trying to sell their current home. So they're in a little bit of a flux between using that equity to purchase a home. And the agent had asked me, because the client was asking, well, can the builder buy the lot and then just build the home and I can buy it? And the agent was really unsure, and I think there was some skepticism, and it was a great question, because that's one thing we started out with, was the financing is, yes, we can do builder financing where we're taking the whole project over. We're buying the lot in our name, we're funding the construction, and then ultimately your client is responsible for an end loan without having to go through, number one, a pre-construction loan and those pre-approvals. Because although getting the pre-approval for a construction loan isn't all too much different, there are slightly more costs, whether it's higher percentages or the rate on that is interest only, but it's a higher rate. And so what we do require for that is a larger deposit, depending on the circumstance. Could be 20%, 10 to 20% of a non-refundable deposit, and then we'll handle from A to B, or A to Z, whatever you want to say. Meaning we'll take down the lot, we'll take responsibility for that, and then that absolves the client of having to worry about any of that or the responsibility going through the whole process. So thank you for that, and hopefully that helps as well, that we're covering some bases here for your agents and your clients out there.
Yeah, and if you, I mean, it can get sometimes a lot of information. Sometimes it can get confusing. Building in this kind of nature, what Kurt was explaining, has a lot of intricacies, and we are not experts when it comes to what type of loan products. Sometimes you know enough to be dangerous, but in the realtor world, we know not to speak on stuff, or we shouldn't speak on stuff that we're not an expert in.
Let me interject there. Mm-hmm. It's not that we're not experts. So let me add to that. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of products out there,
yes,
especially for new construction or construction loans. And so we have several referrals and several partners that we work with that offer a wide variety of products. We're working now with VA construction loans, and we get that one a lot because the VA construction loans are kind of a different animal, whether it comes to interest payments and things like that. So just rest assured, it's because there are so many products out there, which is a benefit to you. And then we do have several referrals there that we can make where those agents and or banks can get more in depth with you on the idiosyncrasies of those type of loan products.
And just to reiterate, put a tail on that kite is, there are your more conventional types, VA, banks, mortgage lenders. They have a whole set of products of their own, and then you have private financing. I believe we had Caitlin on a couple of weeks ago, and she spoke more in depth on that. They have a whole, they can be a lot more flexible. There is a give and take when it comes to private and conventional. But again, we, just launch those questions, let us know, and we're happy to get you the right person who can talk in depth about that and get a lot more specific.
In addition to the builder financing, what we found is that really works for the niche market of the international buyer, who maybe their currency isn't exchanging, or with the banking laws getting their assets over here. It really helps them in order for us to handle all the construction, and then it's easier for them to be responsible for an end loan. So that is one circumstance where that can be really advantageous for you as an agent to be able to offer that to your buyers as an option for new construction. And also wanted to bring up, I had a call from an agent that had a client looking to do a spec home on a lot in one of the areas that we build. And so ultimately,
that client, they owned the lot.
The client owned the lot, and they were trying to sell the lot. And sometimes circumstances, you might not want to build. And so I never like to talk myself out of business, but in this case, the client had the lot listed for a certain price, and then somebody had come in and wanted to offer, I think it was 120, and they wanted to offer 100. In my case, take that, because instead of building a spec home and taking all that risk long term, get the lot, because they had offers before that were quite substantially less. And so in some circumstances it may not make sense, and I say all that to establish a level of trust that we're here to evaluate and partner and collaborate with our agents and our clients to see, are we a fit? Is new construction a fit? Sometimes we've had some clients that were really interested in new construction, and circumstances change where they need to pull the trigger and when existing. And so we're very collaborative in that sense that we'll help you evaluate it, not try and push you. Obviously, that's how we make our living, is new construction, but we also don't want to push you towards something that your clients or you are not going to be comfortable with. So every circumstance is different. We'll evaluate it as we would each other in giving advice to. So, and that again, to help establish some rapport and trust that, again, every circumstance is different.
Yeah, and in the end, we kind of like to reverse engineer, a 5-star rating. So, kind of evaluating a proposition that comes in, working with a client or a realtor, and saying, okay, is there an opportunity here that if we do everything right and we excel, are we able to earn a 5-star? And if it becomes too risky, it was like, well, if everybody did everything right, but the market fell out, it's like, oh, and those kinds of things, like Kurt was saying, you take on a lot of risk, when you build a spec home. And we've been in that position before, so we're speaking from experience.
Forgive us, but shit rolls downhill.
Yeah.
So we get that. Not to mince words, and I never use profanity on social media, but hey, I wanted to get my point across.
I wanted to reiterate one other thing in regard to evaluating lots, because I think we've talked about this several times, and I kind of want to reiterate it because we do have new people coming onto the stream, who may not understand or haven't heard this information. But if you were thinking about building or buying a lot and you have a question and you're not sure, please reach out to us. We have enough experience where we can take a look at a lot and evaluate and saying, we might not be able to say it's going to be exactly this amount, but here's what you're looking at for a cost. For example, in Wedgefield, you may, this lot looks like a great deal. It's $50,000, but we can look at it and saying you could be looking at $100,000 in clearing, grading, and fill, and those are 3 separate things. So somebody could come in and say, oh yeah, we can clear this lot for $10,000. It's like, well, that's great. Now you have a big hole that you have to fill in, and fill, which is dirt that we bring in to bring the pad or bring the elevation up to be able to build on, can be very expensive. We just had one where it was a flat cleared lot, but it was a bigger home, and they brought in 150 truckloads of dirt, which is a lot. Now it's a bigger build, but that was a flat level lot.
The footprint, because it's a home, a pool, and an ADU. So the area of square footage, we didn't have to raise it up very high, but it is wide and long.
Yeah. So I mean, somebody could say, hey, I'm giving you a lot for free, and you'd be like, oh, great, what a deal. But it was like, yep, well, to get to build the house, it's going to take $150,000. So, is it still a deal? It might be, but those are all things to take into consideration. And I just spoke with a potential client the other day when I quoted him what the clearing, grading, and fill budget was, and he's like, wow, that seems fairly expensive. And I said, it can be. It doesn't necessarily. It's our highest variable cost that we can't go and saying, okay, refrigerator package or a kitchen package is going to be X amount of dollars. That's what it is. Because you never know. Once you start pulling out trees, when you pull out a tree or vegetation, it leaves a big hole. So removing the tree is one cost, and then filling the hole back in and getting up is another cost. So
compaction can be very variable. We're talking about dirt. Again, we're not talking about fixed commodity products like appliances and masonry and concrete that is replicatable over time. We're talking about, again, dirt. How moist is it? How much does it compact?
How low lying is the lot, because what we call the finished floor elevation needs to be 18 inches above the crest of the road.
That varies from location to location, but 12 to 18 inches above the crest of the road.
So if you're looking at a lot that's, here's the street and the lot's lying low here, now you've got to bring in all that dirt to get it up to here. And so the lot may be cleared, you'll be like, oh great, I don't have to pay for that. Yep, you still have to bring in a bunch of fill. And so this seems like a lot of information. It seems like we're running on. I just want to reiterate that this is a very important step in evaluating a lot and how much you're going to pay for the lot.
Or how much the client's going to pay. And again, all this to say, this is all comprised in a pre-construction listing that we're looking to do and work with you, so we can give you a pretty fairly good idea. And again, ultimately, we're evaluating the market price of certain products on the market, and ultimately we're reverse engineering what the likelihood and price of the lot is. So we take that into account. You can't just do a pre-construction listing anywhere. It has to be reasonable. Obviously, we have to be within market price. So again, that's all part of this process. And so how are we on time? We're wrapping up.
You're at like 22 minutes.
Okay.
So we're pretty good.
Yeah. So again, ultimately, always call us. We're all over social media, numbers, emails. You can ask us any questions you want individually. You can give us a call or email. We're happy to answer any of these questions to see if and how we might be able to collaborate with you.
Yeah, and again, we're always willing to compensate agents for any type of role. Varying based on if it's a pre-construction listing or referral fees. We're definitely not looking to cut anybody out of the deal. Quite the opposite. We want to incentivize agents. If you have a vacant lot listing anywhere, give us a call. We can partner. We can, offer marketing materials. There is a selection on the MLS to have a designated builder.
On the vacant lot listing.
On vacant lot listings. Vacant lot listings, yes. And so it doesn't get too much more detailed into that, but there is that. And again, we can always have a conversation with you and discuss what the potential is to build if you have a client or if you have a listing. So,
Yeah, and again, that to reiterate Richard's point, that includes whether you bring a client to us or it's a pre-construction listing, same thing. We compensate. Again, we have our real estate license. It's not our business, but we have that as a conduit for our own pre-construction listings. But we respect the relationship that you have with your clients and how you guys earn a living. So we appreciate that. On that note, we will wrap up. Thank you for joining. In the future, we send out emails and a text reminder with links to all of our streaming platforms. So like, share, comment. It does help technically if you like and follow our pages, because the social media platforms will only allow you to live stream in video when you achieve a certain threshold of likes and follows. And so that is important. There's a very specific reason for that, and it is very important to us. So again, follow and subscribe. You can DM, text, call with questions. We're on all forms of social media and we do answer. If we don't respond, we're dead or sleeping. So we pride ourselves on open and immediate communication as fast as we can.
I think that sums it up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.